Hey, what's up guys? Houston here, and today I'm going to show you the 5 easiest ways for you to boost your credit score so you can get between a 720 to an 850 credit score. And again, a lot of people are not even aware there's a difference when you're looking at the credit scoring system, and you need to know this so you won't get screwed over. One thing about it is the Vantage score versus the FICO score. There's a difference. You can have a 720 Vantage score and you're like, oh wow, I'm set. But in reality, it can be screwing you out of 50 to 80 points because most financial institutions like the banks, they use FICO score. So you may be looking at a 720 Vantage score. However, that FICO score may be a 640. This is how bad this scoring system is, okay? And you need to know that because people talking about fixing your credit, they'll tell you, well, go over to Credit Karma and look at your credit score. However, they're not telling you that Credit Karma scoring is on a Vantage score, and it only uses like institutions like credit unions that have more flexibility, that give more flexibility than financial institutions. And granted, both of them go from 350 to 850. However, the problem is it depends on what type of data is being picked up on your credit file. And so Vantage score, again, 720 Vantage score does not equal a 720 FICO score. So you need to know that. So when you go over to Credit Karma to pull your TransUnion and Equifax and you're like, oh wow, I got a 720, trust me, you better pull that FICO score because that 720 in actuality more likely is going to be less. So you're going to probably be in the low 6s or the mid 6s because they're different on the scoring because of the data. And most people that are doing credit repair, they're not even telling you this because they themselves don't know this. And I've been in the credit industry almost 25 years, and I used to buy debt portfolios, so I had to know this. So anyway, let's talk about the different institutions. Credit unions versus banks. Now, with the credit unions, again, they have a different scoring, internal scoring system as well. So when we talk about Vantage score, FICO score, did you know that financial institutions, they also have internal scoring? So say that you applied for a credit card with a credit union, they gave you a $3,000 credit card, right? And then you call them up and you say, hey, can I get $10,000? Well, what happens is their internal credit scoring system, they got all this other data on you, and that's what they're looking at to determine, can you handle $10,000 credit card? So that data that they have on you is what may influence whether you get a higher credit card limit. Also, like I've been telling you all, your zip code. If you in a bad zip code, if you got an 800 credit score and everybody else in that zip code got a 630 credit score, you're inheriting that 630 credit score. You may get some credit cards, but it won't be the same as the other people because all these other people, they have lower credit scores. So they're calculating your good credit in with these people bad credit, and it's going to hurt you. So let me tell you that it's an internal scoring system that they're using besides the major credit bureaus. Also talking about the major credit bureaus, Equifax, Experian, TransUnion. Those are the credit bureaus that most people know about. However, we teach about the other 2 credit bureaus, and actually there's more than that. It's actually more than 5 credit bureaus that are factoring in when trying to go after funding or mortgage loans, any type of lending. There's more than just Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. That's the reason I talk about the internal scoring, but there's also other credit bureaus that factor in to whether you're going to get approved for some type of funding, okay? Even like if you filed a bankruptcy and somebody had success with getting that bankruptcy off of Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion, there's another database that has that bankruptcy on file. And when they go to that database and it sees that you have filed a bankruptcy and it's less than 4 years old, you're going to get denied even though your Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion are not showing it. See, this is the credit game that a lot of people are not showing you. And that's the reason that I tell you all to be careful. That's the reason that the three-way funding created the credit repair program that we actually give you so that you'll know this stuff. So you'll know exactly what to do when you're trying to restore your personal credit. All right? Now let's look at this. Most people are not even aware that if you have a bill, a collection bill, that's less than $100 with FICO Score, they won't count it. However, Vantage Score, they don't ignore nothing. If you owe $10, it's going to be calculated in, okay? So this is also going to be affecting that scoring system as well. So you have to know this stuff, again, because this is what you're going to be playing off of. So when you're trying to get any type of lending and stuff, most of the time, with majority of lending institutions, they use FICO Score. Vantage Score is with the TransUnion, so you have to be very picky on which lending institution you're going to be dealing with, okay? Now, let's talk about history of reporting. If you've been incarcerated or you're an older person and you haven't used any credit and it hasn't reported within 6 months, you won't have a credit file. And that's the reason they'll say, oh, you don't have nothing. It's because there hasn't been any activity within that 6 months of history. So when people come out of jail and you wondering like, wow, they don't have no type of history. I tell you a story. We had a client, got out of jail, and we added AUs, we did all this stuff, and the financial institutions looked at this and they said, well, what happened with this past certain months or whatever? Because the credit score was almost a 800, okay, they thought it was a CPN, but it wasn't. It was its actual social, okay, and we built the file up and everything, but because he didn't have any past collections or anything like that, they thought it was actually a fraudulent file. And granted, it wasn't a fraudulent file, it was his social. He just never had any history, no cell phone bills or nothing. So because he never had any type of history, and all of a sudden he has an 800 credit score, they looked at that and they denied the guy that he had almost an 800. This is the game that most people don't even tell you about. You have to be very careful. Like I said, with Vantage Score, if you have at least 1 month of history, then they'll help you create a credit file. But with FICO Score, they're looking for at least 6 months of history. Now, talking about getting you to a 720-800 credit score. Now that we know the difference between a Vantage Score and a FICO Score, so most people will challenge all the negatives and then add the AUs to get you up there, which is good. However, if they take off all the negative items, like you never had no history, just like I'll tell you about this guy or whatever, and they have a thin file where they're adding maybe about 2 to 3 AUs on it, okay, if there's no primaries on it with that thin file, guess what? They're going to get denied, even if their credit score is an 850. I have seen people had one trade line and gave them an 850 credit score. It didn't mean anything. The file was too thin. So most of the time with lending institutions, they want to see you between 4 to 5 trade lines on your credit file in order for them to approve you. So this is another reason you can be denied, because you have a thin credit file, even though you may have an 850 credit score, but because you only have 2 or 3 trade lines, they can deny you. More likely they will deny you because the file is too thin, okay? So that's with adding the AUs. Well, now with the new credit scoring system, most people, like if you pay your phone bill, light bill, gas bill, those type of bills on time, then you actually can add those to Experian. Equifax just announced it, so you can add it to your Experian and Equifax. I don't know when TransUnion will start adding it, but there's also, again, you talk about these 3 credit bureaus, they done created 2 other data point bureaus that's going to be picking up this information too. So this can be good or bad. So like if you banking and stuff and you don't pay your overdrafts and stuff like that, that's going to affect your credit score. So if you write bad checks or you overdraft and go a long time without paying that overdraft or whatever, or end up in check system, that's going to start affecting your credit score. And people are not telling you this. Another thing, let's talk about pay for delete. If you want to increase your credit score faster, people say don't pay off the collections or whatever. However, the only time that you want to pay off a collection if they're going to be a pay for delete. That means that they guarantee that when you pay that bill, that they're going to delete it so as if it never happened. And once it goes to collections, then they have the authority to delete it out of the system like it never happened because they bought the paper. And usually buy the paper, usually about 10 cents on the dollar, 10 to 15 cents. It just depends on the amount of paper and how old it is. But at the same time, the older, the better. And especially, here's where you get screwed. Even though you're paying a pay for a delete, your paper, your collections may have been out of statutes, right? So that means that they could not legally do anything to you because it's past statutes of limitations. But they keep on trading it and selling it to other people. So again, it just depends on if you're trying to buy a house or you're trying to get a real big loan or whatever and you need this off your credit report, it's best to do a pay for delete. And then once it does a pay for delete, with the mortgage company, they probably can do a rapid scoring to help your credit score. Okay, and then when the mortgage companies, they're looking more or less at your FICO score. Okay, so remember the FICO score, you're going to have scoring for credit cards, car loans, mortgages, personal loans. Okay, and I think it's like one more missing. But I know those are the top tier of FICO scoring. So again, with the internal scoring, besides what you're looking at with the credit bureaus, this information you need to know so that way you understand your whole credit file, which a lot of people don't even explain to you because they can't, because they don't know. But at the same time, they offer you services to help you get to 720 or 730, but don't count on them with this Vantage score thing, because this Vantage score can be different between 50 to 80 points, in which you're trying to use your FICO score instead of your Vantage score. For most lending institutions, it will screw you over. So you have to be very careful, and so because it'll screw you over, you end up with multiple inquiries. And like with Vantage scores, talking about the inquiries, here's another thing. Like with FICO score, it's just the hard inquiries. However, with Vantage score, they calculate all inquiries. So whether it's a soft pull or hard pull, Vantage score is calculating all your inquiries, where FICO score is only calculating your hard inquiries. So I hope that you understand what this is all about in terms of trying to boost your credit score from a 750 to 850, understanding that there's a difference between your Vantage score and your FICO score. And if you want to learn more about how to properly build your credit score, we actually do an analysis of your personal credit for free when you get the business credit program, or when you get the credit repair program, we give you a free analysis of your credit. Okay, and if you want to learn more about that, click the link below, and so three-way funding can help you. Thank you.